He said, he told me, and my guy Jordan is over there, he said, now they're gonna come for you. I said, can't come for me for what? I didn't say anything.
Right.
He said, they're gonna come. And they're gonna say a lot of different things. And they're gonna be some people that you thought you might be able to get, that they're not gonna come now.
Right.
And that's absolutely happening.
The genius of Katt Williams is that by the time you realize he's also talking about you, Shannon, it's too late.
I didn't want to get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Majors. Not because I didn't like white women. I think white women are as great as any other women. But I'm not gonna act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends. Well, they went around the world for 2 years straight telling any women that would listen that this was a good-looking. Since when? When did y'all start liking a big nose? And when did y'all like a little head and a big jaw? When? Since when? That look like my daddy. When you start liking my daddy? You like black people's features like that? If this ugly is good looking.
That's 3 fingers down. Is he pointing to Shannon right there?
And all is good looking. Anytime you see them telling you something you can't believe, just understand it's a play. Get out of here. Get out of here, ugly boy.
So it looks like Shannon Sharpe is big mad because his viral Katt Williams interview is because anytime you let guests spill tea on a bunch of well-known people, you're going to draw a huge crowd. But at what cost? And Shannon must have known that there would be some consequences. So what exactly did Shannon say about his career taking a nosedive after that Katt Williams interview? And who are these industry figures allegedly trying to blacklist him? Let's break it down.
I didn't know it was gonna cause this kind of ripple. I didn't think it was gonna move me in the direction. I'm glad it did. I understand what comes along with that. But if you remember, he said it. He said, this is gonna put you in another dimension.
He definitely did.
So in case you missed it, Shannon Sharpe recently sat down for a tell-all interview with Cam Newton, where he opened up about all the craziness he's faced since that viral Katt Williams interview earlier this year. So Cam first asked Shannon how he stays neutral when his guests go all off and start dissing or making wild allegations about celebs Shannon already had on his show. And Shannon said he simply lets the guest talk and doesn't fact-check everything they say. Shannon then touched on that whole issue between Katt Williams and Ricky Smiley, explaining that it's not his job to police what the guest says, and he just assumes that they're telling the truth.
And look at those same podcasts when they don't mention Shannon Sharpe.
Right.
And then you'll understand why they're mentioning Shannon Sharpe.
Right. I could dig it. And at the end of the day, what you do is what you do.
Yes.
I think that has nothing to do with it.
But I mean, you would think by now, somebody would have outed Shannon Sharpe if he was living that lifestyle. Somebody would have outed.
Yeah. I think really, too, as we keep everything moving forward as well as positive. When I asked this question of how do you remain neutral between the guest telling the story and or the person they're telling the story about, how do you find credibility in that?
You know, Cam, what I try to do is that some guests I know more about than others.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've prided myself on doing is not listening to any other interviews that guest may or may not have had, because I don't want it to cloud my judgment about what to think about said individual. So if you notice my interviews, they normally go about 2 hours or longer because I don't interrupt. I'm having a conversation. You and I having a conversation, you're not gonna cut me off, I'm not gonna cut you off.
Right.
And so I just let the guests talk. I'm assuming, like when I had Katt on, I had Ricky Smiley on it first, and we was talking about the Friday situation. Ricky said he was originally supposed to play Money Mike. I didn't know that. I didn't know if anybody, so I'm thinking, I'm getting some information ain't nobody else knows.
It's new news.
Yes, so I'm like, oh man. Ricky said he was originally supposed to be Money Mike instead of the thieving Santa Claus. So I felt good. A couple of days later, Katt says that's a lie. And so I'm like, what? Why is he upset? I mean, it's not like he said that Katt did a bad job as Money Mike. I didn't realize in what Katt later came on to refute, it said that wasn't the case. So they were like, when Katt said, you let him lie, I said, Katt, I'm assuming, I wasn't on the set. I'm assuming that what he's saying is true because he was there. I've got no reason to believe that he or she is coming on the show lying.
Correct.
So for me, it's like, I've told people, I'm not 60 Minutes. I'm not Dateline. I'm not 48 Hours. I'm not one of these investigative journalists that I'm trying to get to the root. There's a whistleblower that says that somebody has secrets in their basement or something. That's not what I am, Cam. I'm having a conversation. Me and a guest is having a conversation. I said, is there anything that you don't want to talk about? I always ask the guest that. Sometimes they say, well, I would appreciate if we not talk about this.
Right.
Cool, no problem. Because I believe you can tell your story without saying something negative. But yes, I believe a person that's been in a business, that's been doing something 10, 15, 20, 30 years are more than one salacious story.
Right.
That's what I believe. So if they say they want to stay away from it, but if they want to tell something, who am I to say, no, don't do, you can't tell that. Right. People are, Cam, so we know why they are.
Shannon then talked about how Katt came through with the receipts for all his claims. And he again claimed that it's not his job to push back too much. And for the most part, he just wants to let the guests talk.
He had studied every interview that I had done, conversation I had, he had studied. Because a lot of things that we didn't mention on the show, he was talking about it but if you notice, he was like, he was doing that, he did this a lot. So his recall, everything that somebody had said, that he had a question, it didn't happen like that. Because I asked Sayed, Katt once accused you of stealing a joke. Said, I didn't steal the joke because the timeline doesn't match up. And I think he said something to the effect, if you look at how his joke ended, how mine ended. Katt came back, he refuted that. I want credibility. I want people to be able to share their story without me interrupting. I think sometimes people in our position that do what you and I do, they want to hear their voice instead of the guest. Well, I can go home and hear myself talk if I wanted to, if that's what I wanted to hear. I think for the most part that people tune in to watch my pod because they want to hear what the guests have to say. I let the guests speak. People say, well, you push back on Amanda Seales. And all I said was, Amanda, did you think being a child, correcting a teacher in front of the students, could it have been something else other than racism? That's all. And people lost it. Well, you didn't push back. I asked Monique. Monique said Oprah asked her to interview for a role, to go read for a role. She went and read for the role. Oprah ended up getting the role. I said, Mo, did you ever think they were looking for a heavyset black woman? And it wasn't because the industry was against you. Right. She said, my brother, I didn't think about it like that. But see, they don't mention that.
Right.
Because that wouldn't, I've got to try to do something to try to quell this momentum that this wave that Shannon is riding. So any way I can try to undercut him or to make him look like I'm not a journalist. I never told anybody I was a journalist. I said I'm a conversationalist. But what people are upset about is that for some reason people come to me and I don't look at them with judgy eyes. I have no predetermined notion or preconceived notion, and they open up to me. Right. That's what they're upset about. Because if you look at a lot of these people that's been on other podcasts, they don't do the views that they do when they come on Club Shay Shay.
Shannon then went on to talk about how the success of his interview with Katt really shot his podcast to new heights. And Katt totally called it, predicting that the interview would be a game changer for Shannon's show. But Katt also warned Shannon that certain industry big shots would come out after him with a vengeance for giving Katt a platform to spill all their dirty secrets. And according to Shannon, that's exactly what happened. Shannon shared that while he's grateful for the massive boost in popularity thanks to Katt's explosive revelations, he's also facing some serious fallout. Just like Katt warned him, apparently certain industry figures are not taking kindly to the way Shannon laughed at Katt's jokes about them and being exposed. And now they're allegedly working behind the scenes to tear down Shannon's platform as payback.